$20 for the Wyze Cam seemed too good to be true, right? Well, what about $30 for its big brother, the Wyze Cam Pan, that has pan and tilt abilities? Let's take a look at it and see if it's worth your money. Spoilers, it is. Before getting started, big thanks out to Wyze for sending out the pan for me to share with you guys. If you do end up being interested in it, check out the description box down below for the link to the camera on Wyze's website directly, and then also Amazon. In the box, the Wyze Cam Pan comes with a USB power brick, a micro USB cable, a user guide that you'll want to keep, and then of course the camera itself. The Wyze Cam Pan is about 5 inches tall, so just about 2 of the Wyze Cam V2s if you stack them on top of each other. There is no magnetic base with the Wyze Cam Pan like there is with the V2, and that's because of the movement of the camera. The magnet probably wouldn't be strong enough. So they went ahead and went with a 1/4 inch thread on the bottom of the camera, and that's actually how we've been having it mounted for our use in our house, is I've got it mounted to a very small GorillaPod rip-off tripod, and it's been working out pretty great. The initial setup only took about 5 minutes, and that was after I downloaded the Wyze Cam app. Once you open up the app, you then go ahead and go through the process of adding a new camera. It gives the camera a QR code to scan, which then links it to your account. It does that, it runs through a couple of firmware upgrades, and then you're pretty much off to the races. If you've set up a Wyze Cam V2, the pan literally is no different at all. Just like the V2 though, the pan will only connect to 2.4 gigahertz wireless networks. It will not connect to a 5 gigahertz network, so you have to make sure you have that slower network available or you're no dice here. The main difference and benefit of the pan over the V2 is its ability to pan and tilt. It's able to rotate 360 degrees in less than 3 seconds. You've got the ability to go ahead and change this inside of the settings, whether you want it to rotate quicker or slower. That option is there for you. But then it's also got the ability to tilt 93 degrees. I almost made a boy band joke there, but then I realized it was 98 degrees versus 93 degrees, so my bad. The pan does feature a more wide-angle lens than the V2, as it does have 120 degrees field of vision. The video quality with the pan is just as great as you would expect from the V2. Absolutely no complaints there whatsoever. The pan has a couple of cool ways for you to take advantage of its features of being able to pan and tilt. And the first one's called Pan Scan. Pan Scan basically lets you set up 4 separate sectors for the camera to rotate to once every 10 seconds. I liken this feature to basically all the security cameras that you ever see inside of movies or inside of a game, where it starts here, it then goes here, here, and here. You've got the ability to set up custom zones for it to go to, or it will give you kind of a set of default zones that you can use as well. The second feature is motion tracking, and this is exactly what it sounds like. Is once the camera detects motion, the camera will track that motion until that motion is no longer seen by the camera. You've got the ability to use pan scan or tracking separately, or you can actually use them together to give yourself kind of the ultimate security experience. I personally don't currently use motion tracking. I do use motion tagging, so I'm still able to get notifications whenever it actually detects the motion and tags it. But the tracking I don't use because we currently have a fan in our kitchen, and that fan drives the camera absolutely nuts. Motion tagging will still notice our ceiling fan right now, but it actually won't send us notifications for it, and I'm not really quite sure why, because if I walk into the field of vision of the camera during the set alarm period or set notification period, it'll see me, it'll tag me, it will then send me an email on it, as it, or not an email, but it'll send me a notification on it as it should, but it doesn't for the fan, even though when you open the app you can see it seeing the fan. This may be because I set the sensitivity so low for it to try to prevent from false positives with the fan. The only downside of the pan function on this camera has to do with that stupid ceiling fan that's in our kitchen again. I was able to set an exclusion zone at the top of the app itself saying, hey, this is where that fan is, ignore this area up here. And it was like, fine, cool, whatever. I won't send you notifications for it anymore. But then what would happen is it would track me walking into my kitchen or something, which would then reset the positioning on that camera. And then when the camera would track up with that tilt, the fan is no longer at the top of the field of vision anymore, it's now in the middle, so then the fan would cause everything to get triggered again, and the camera would sit there and make micro adjustments. It would make so many adjustments that you could actually hear the pan in my living room, which is about 20 feet away, 20, 25 feet, something like that. You could hear the camera just sitting there going, It would just go back and forth, and it would never stop. So I want to use motion tracking, but where I have it in my house right now just isn't really feasible, so I don't use it. You've got the ability to add a micro SD card to the pan, just like you do with the V2. When you insert the micro SD card, that then opens the options for continuous recording, which basically records everything. Or you can still have it set to just triggered events, which is something like it hears here's a specific sound or here's any sound, or detects motion. A triggered event, in case you weren't aware, causes the camera to basically take a 12-second clip of whatever that event was and save it up into the cloud, or save it to your micro SD card based off of however you have your recording settings done. And that leads into my favorite feature of the pan, which was also my favorite feature of the Wyze V2, which is the 14 days of free online cloud storage. It's free. The continuous recording only is local, it's not up in the cloud, but regardless if you have an SD card or not, 14 days worth of triggered events are going to be stored up in the cloud for you for no fee. There's no annual membership, nothing. It's just part of it, and for 30 bucks, it's a pretty awesome feature. Wyze themselves reports that if you were to record continuously in HD mode with a 32 gig SD card, you can expect to keep about 2 days worth of footage on that SD card. If you change that to standard definition, that bumps up to about 7 or 8 days. So you can basically quadruple the amount of information stored on that card just by keeping it out of HD, though I don't suggest you doing that. Myself though, my experience with using the same 32 gig card, right now, I've got 4 full days, or 3.5 to 4 full days worth of information stored on that SD card, and I record in HD. So the 2 days that they give you, maybe a little bit more of a conservative number, but just know that those ranges that they give you, I've been using the pan on top of a cart that's inside of our kitchen, and really whenever it came to determining the best place for it, that was kind of the best place that I had. It's not ideal, but it's not the worst place, but it's again not super ideal. So that's something to keep in mind when you're shopping between the V2 or the pan, is do you need to pay the extra $10 for a feature set on a camera that maybe you don't need? Something to keep in mind. The pan features night vision and smart sound detection as well. These are features from the V2, and it's nice to see them also on the pan. Night vision is exactly what you think it would be, and I have zero complaints when it comes to the vision quality on this camera during the night. You can see just fine. The details are good for night vision. Honestly, no complaints from me. Smart sound detection basically allows you to customize the alerts that the camera will send based off of specific sounds. You've got the ability to have it configured to where it will listen for carbon monoxide detectors, smoke alarms, or if it just hears a general sound. So general sounds would be the camera hears this and then sends you an alert saying, hey, we heard a sound. I have that turned off, but I do have the smoke alarm and the carbon monoxide alerts set up, because if my camera hears either of those, there's a problem and I want to know about it. One of my only complaints with this camera over the couple of months that I've actually been testing it has to do with these notifications. I went through a couple of weeks there, or maybe even a month, that I didn't get any kind of notifications at all. Now that I say that, I've been testing this more than a couple of months. I've had it a while. I'm sorry, Wyze. But anyways, there was a while, 4 weeks at least, where I didn't get any kind of notifications at all. Didn't do anything to stop them from coming. Didn't do anything really, I thought, to make them start happening again, as everything was set the way that it should have been. However, a firmware upgrade became available. I ran through that firmware upgrade, the camera rebooted itself, and then I've gotten all of the notifications that I've expected since then. So, bugs, I guess? Wyze does a pretty good job of sending out firmware upgrades pretty frequently. I usually get one at least once a month, something like that, for both the V2 and the pan, and those are there to fix bugs, to add new features, or to even refine features that are currently out there. For an extra $10, I think the ability to actually move your camera and be able to scan based off of what you want to at any given time, or based off of, say, pan scan, I definitely think that that's worth the money, and I am super happy with my Wyze pan, and I highly suggest it to anyone that wants that type of control. If you're just gonna stick your camera down a hallway or in a singular room where maybe you can put it up in a corner and you don't need to be able to move the camera, there's no need for you to spend the extra $10. But if you have a wide angle room, like a living room or something like that, I highly suggest it, and I think you'll be very happy with it. If this video was helpful to you at all, please hit that like button. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. We'd love to help you out in any way that I can. If you want to see more consumer-related tech reviews on tech that I use and enjoy, I think you will too, hit that subscribe button. But until the next one, this is Aaron. Take care.